Welcome to Brews&Boxing episode 6. I can't believe it's been 6 weeks already. Filthy Rich is with me as always. Filthy Rich, how you doing tonight?
Yeah, what's up? What's up?
Oh, you know, we kind of got the late edition of Brews&Boxing here. We're filming this at about 1 in the morning here. And with me as always is Judge Jimmy James. Triple J, how you doing?
Good, fellas. Doing well.
Had to have my last sip of non-beer before we bust into it. Well, it's late, boys. We've been talking here, so let's just already get it into Brews and News. You guys ready?
Ring that bell.
Ring the bell.
Let's just get right into it. And I forgot last week, so I ain't going to forget this week. What we doing first thing for Brews and News, we crack a brew. Gentlemen. Skol. All right, we got a lot of things to touch in Brews and News this week. First thing that we're going to touch on here is Estrada and Chocolatito are talking rematch to unify the belts again. Filthy Rich, we'll start with you. How interested are you in a Estrada versus Chocolatito rematch?
Again, I'm just this junkie. I will watch it. I don't know what either. If these two have anything left in the tank, this division's getting kind of stale, boring, and old. But nonetheless, these are hard-hitting, fast dudes. They're swinging for the fences all the time. Do I have interest in it? Absolutely. I will watch a Chocolatito fight anytime. We've seen this fight before, but I will still watch it. I still think Chocolatito wins. That's all I have. I'm not excited about it, but I will for sure watch.
Interesting. You think Chocolatito is going to win, so you think his comeback has been a success then, even though he came back and won a belt. He didn't win the BAB belt. I mean, that's more prestigious than any belt he's going to win. But you think that his comeback is a success then?
I mean, I don't know how we define success, but I guess you can come back. But what is he, like 27, 28, 29 years old, something like that? You're talking
32. He's 32.
Is he 32? See,
yes,
that's
Chocolatito's only 32.
That is the end of your career at that weight. When a heavyweight is like 32 years old, they're still in their prime towards the end, but still in their prime. But when you're a bantamweight, flyweight, something like that, yeah. You're at the end of your career. Good for him. I don't know if it's a success, but hey, he was knocked down. He's back up, probably back up on top. I don't see it lasting very long. Let the fight happen. But someone's going to take his throne. It may not be somebody on a top 10 list, according to Ring Magazine right now, but it's not going to last. Don't think that this is the rebirth of Chocolatito. I think it's kind of over for him, but good for him. He's leaving on top.
Triple J, what do you think about Estrada versus Chocolatito? You want to see that fight?
I'd watch that fight. Definitely.
You're a big Chocolatito guy, Judge.
Oh, yeah. I was pretty surprised when Chocolatito has 2 losses against Sarung Vasai. That was a very bummer moment, I guess.
Devastating losses, too, if I remember right.
Well, one of them was a knockdown, and that was pretty surprising considering how dominant Chocolatito was. The other one was still a pretty good fight, but it was just, I don't know. Like I said, it was just, it was pretty crazy to see him go down so fast. But his last fight against, what was it? Cal Yafai? He beat the crap out of him. That was a Chocolatito of old. So I'm definitely interested in seeing Chocolatito and Estrada again. I don't see any. I mean, I don't really know what else is going to be up there for big fights for that division. So that one, I'd watch that one. That'd be good.
Yeah, that division is hurting. I mean, they need someone to step up, obviously, in that division. And that's probably the only big fight left in that division right now until somebody steps up and takes the new throne. Would you guys agree on that?
I mean, I suppose. I mean, I think I think anything. I think everything. When Chocolatito, I guess when he lost to Sarong Vasai, I actually thought he won that fight. Sarong Vasai headbutted him a couple times. All the blood was showing. And sometimes these judges just, you don't know what they're watching. They're probably playing on their phones or something. They look up, they see blood, and it's back to their phones. But I thought Chocolatito won that first fight. And the second fight, yeah, he got whooped up pretty bad. That was on the undercard of the Golovkin-Jacobs fight, I believe. I think Chocolatito probably still has something, but it's kind of that weak division. Not to mention he moved up for that fight. I didn't think he belonged in that division. I thought for any fighter to move up and weight, you don't go after like the top dog. And he did. I thought that was a mistake. Again, I thought he won that first one, so maybe it wasn't a mistake. But then getting the rematch and all this other stuff happening to him, he probably did this to himself. Going back to, I don't know what the original question was, but successful or not, sure. Do I want to see the fight? Sure. I'm not excited about it, but I'm a junkie. I'll check it out.
Yeah, I mean, at 115, yeah, if you're going to go up in weight class, you don't want to fight the best. You want to take the Canelo approach and go up and fight somebody without a heartbeat, right, at a catch weight. That's what you got to do. We're not mentioning any names on that one.
Or Terrence Crawford.
No, don't even say that, man. No. You go up and fight the best. You take the Lomachenko approach.
Yeah, Lomachenko does the best.
Beat the best. To be the best, you beat the best. I have no problem with him moving up and weight and fighting the best.
Judge dropping down a little Ric Flair on you. To be the man, you got to beat the man.
Lomachenko is an exception. He is an exception to the rule. Lomachenko is something we haven't seen since Roy Jones. I wouldn't, if it's my camp, if that's my golden goose, I'm trying to protect my golden goose. And you get comfortable at your weight first, and then we get you the big fights.
I'm pretty sure Gonzalez is pretty comfortable. It was 8 years ago. I'm pretty sure he was pretty comfortable on his weight class. But either way, we can disagree on that one a little bit. You go and fight for the best.
Well, speaking transitional, speaking of guys that are resurrecting their careers, so to speak, not so much, but Mike Tyson is in the news. He says he's coming out to fight charity 3-round matches, exhibition fights for charity, a la Butterbean style, the 3-rounders. Do you have any interest in watching Mike Tyson fight for charity there, Judge Jimmy James?
I'd probably watch Mike Tyson fight. Why not? Being this age, I've seen some of his videos where he's trying to teach other people some moves, man, and he looks like he's still got some quickness. I'd probably watch something. I mean,
he's still dangerous.
I would assume so. I mean, he's dangerous to anybody that doesn't know how to fight. That's damn sure. I would assume that these are just chumps that he'd be fighting in charity. Yeah. But yeah,
a 3-round fight, you don't have to worry about the lungs as much. You know, he's just gonna come out there and swing for the fence.
No, you got to worry about him knocking someone's head off, man. Like that's dangerous. I'd watch it. I'd definitely watch it. It doesn't. Yeah.
Would you pay for it?
No. I'd watch it. I wouldn't pay for it.
Filthy Rich, how about you? Would you pay to see Tyson come out of retirement?
Listen, you cheapskate. Of course you pay for the fight. It's for charity. I mean, come on. We're going to watch it. You got to pay for it because it is charity. Now, would I watch it? Yeah, I guess so. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know who his opponents are lined up for him. Is it going to be George Foreman or Larry Holmes? I don't know. Maybe we can do Trump versus Tyson again and have a real thing this time.
I'd pay to see that.
Yeah, I would for sure watch. I don't know how long this is going to be. Is it going to be just a one-time deal? Or what if he hurts somebody? I mean, what if it's him versus like Sylvester Stallone, a guy who thinks he is a real boxer? I'll watch Tyson. I'll watch Tyson no matter what. I think I would probably watch any charity boxing. That's just me. I would think. I I think everybody would want to watch this. If you're in a, I don't want to use the bar term, but if you're at a bar and like the Tyson charity fight is on, and there's like World Series or something on, I'm watching the Tyson charity fight just because something to talk about, something cool.
Well, if it's during the World Series, I'm sure you could watch the Tyson fight and then only miss about a half an inning of a World Series game, I think, and go back, because the World Series games are like 7 hours long, it seems.
Between pitches, the fight would be over. So I'm sure those guys will be watching the fight too.
Judge, I know you're kind of with me maybe on this. I'd love to see him walk to the ring in his blue jumpsuit from Mike Tyson Mysteries.
Oh,
maybe have Norm Macdonald in his corner. That would just be great.
yeah, that would, I'd get a good kick out of that. If he had some good entrances like that, I'd yeah, that'd be a laugh.
Maybe fight a guy named the Chupacabra. That would just be,
that's a tough word.
If you're gonna go all out, go all out. I mean, make it a show. I'm definitely gonna pay for it regardless, because it's not like we can order it and all watch it together.
It is for charity, Richie. So maybe I would pay for it for charity.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's a good point.
He's on the ropes.
Right.
He's on the ropes.
Well, speaking of another guy talking about returning to boxing, Adrian Broner demands $10 million from Al Heyman for a return to boxing. He also reaches out to Eddie Hearn. Filthy Rich, what do you think about Adrian Broner making a comeback?
I like Broner. I think he's an entertaining fighter. He has a fan base, a heavy fan base that are willing to pay to watch him fight. My only problem with him, he's kind of like a Gervonta Davis, where he's gonna miss weight again. You want your $10 million, make your weight. Don't get fined. There's plenty of fights set up for you. He recently said he'll beat Keith Thurman in 2 rounds. I'd love to see that fight. That's how you make your money. Go call somebody out, let the other person retaliate, and Keith Thurman has retaliated.
With the greatest line ever.
I think Keith Thurman said, I think Adrian Broner, when he slaps his kids slap him back. He could beat his grandma in 2 rounds. He doesn't throw 2 punches in 2 rounds. I mean, Keith Thurman went heavy at him. I think the two of them can meet at 147. I mean, we just recently talked about an opponent for Keith Thurman. Mm-hmm. Here it is. I know what the Pacquiao fight, there's no interest in it. That's the only guy there's any interest for. We found a new opponent for him. I think it's Adrian Broner. $10 million, going back to the original question. Look, he's got the fan base. If they're willing to shell out the dough and all that other good stuff, pay the man. But if you can't get a deal worked out, then he said something about 1,200. I don't know what that even means. If he's trying to go to Top Rank or Matchroom or whoever, you have an opponent right now in Keith Thurman, who's with the PBC and Showtime and Al Heyman. I want to say make it happen, pay the man, but I'm pushing it a little bit because I don't know if he's worth $10 million.
I don't know if he could win that fight either. By the way, I think Thurman wins that fight almost pretty handily. Thurman just looks so much better, apparently. He had that one-sided fight against Pacquiao, and Pacquiao just dominated that fight. I don't know. I don't see it. Judge Jimmy James, what do you think about Adrian Broner?
This is pretty comical to me, man. He's demanding $10 million for a fight. That's I got a good laugh when I saw that one. I'll tell you that right now. I don't know how he's demanding that much. He hasn't fought in like a year and a half. His last fight was against Pacquiao, and then he calls out Thurman that he's gonna knock him out in 2 rounds. Man, I think he's on something. I don't think that's gonna happen. It'd be a fight that'd be interesting to see. Because Broner, like Richie said, is very entertaining. But I just don't think he's. I don't think he's. I don't think he's worth $10 million in any fight right now. So that's a pretty big leap.
To quote Tom Haverford, he tells a story from a book that I wouldn't read, but I would watch the movie of. What does that even mean? And speaking of which, I do have Parks and Rec's theme trivia coming up this Friday, 8 p.m. I'm going to drop that again later, but I had to drop that in there right now. All right, so Adrian Broner, he was a 4-division champion, though. I mean, he was no slouch back in the day. Maybe he's coming off. Maybe he can make a Chocolatito type return to the ring and win a couple fights.
He says that off. Like, he always thinks I'm AB about boxing. I don't think. I think it's all publicity stunt, I guess you could say. And even his welterweight title was kind of. I didn't think he won the fight against the European guy. It just seemed that it was handed to him. He's not a convincing 4-division champion. At 140, he's just an underachiever, and at the same time, kind of underrated because he has all the tools. He just doesn't get those wins. When Sean Porter beat him, it was a pretty close fight, but Sean Porter knocked him down at least once, maybe twice. Sean Porter deserved that win, and going back to the 4-division champ thing, he's for sure a 3-division champ, and I guess 4 if that's what the book.
Well, maybe AB should stand for about Benjamins now, because that guy wants to get paid. You know.
Let me throw one thing in there real last. Like
Sure.
back in 2018, when the zone was getting started again, Eddie Hearn threw out an offer to Broner for 3 fights at $6.75 million, and he called it a slave deal. A slave deal. So if he thinks that all of a sudden now, after he lost to Pacquiao, he's going to get some money, he's going to get $10 million for a single fight, that's pipe dream, man.
Especially in this day and age where we don't have sports anymore. I mean, be able to get $10 million with as many big fights that still need to be done when boxing comes back. You know, Canelo, Triple G on the horizon, and the heavyweights division. You're going to demand $10 million for a third. The third fight you'd want to see in that division, maybe the 4th fight you'd want to see in that division. Good luck. I mean, if you can get it, get the money. But I don't see it happening. I don't see them selling huge pay-per-view buys on that one. I just I don't see it.
Well, it depends on depends on what that Pacquiao one was, I think. Because him and Pacquiao, if Pacquiao made a ton of money off that fight, and if Broner got something, like if Eddie Hearn's going to offer him $6.5 million for 3 fights, and he made $6.5 million in that one fight, then maybe he knows what he's talking about. I don't know the numbers.
Well, obviously, fighting Pacquiao is going to be worth a lot more money than fighting anyone else.
Right.
Yeah.
Broner is going to be able to get a fight with, regardless.
He's going to get no $10 million for fighting Thurman.
No, he's not.
Merman? More?
They may get $10 million total for the fight, you know, if that, you know, that they have to split up between the two. So, all right, boys, I think we touched on all the brews and news of this week. Good segment there. Let's move right on to the Filthy Five. Filthy Five this week is featherweights. Rich trying to make a big comeback off of losing 2 weeks in a row in the Filthy Five. Will it change this week on featherweights? We don't know. But since the returning champion is Judge Jimmy James, he gets to start off with his number 5 featherweight. Go ahead, Judge Jimmy James.
Ooh, well, featherweight division. There's some big names in there. At least if you like boxing. For the fifth
You better
spot,
like boxing if you're watching this show.
Yeah. I was going back and forth between a couple of guys. I am going to throw out there right off the bat that I'm going to exclude 3 people from this list. One being Jojo Diaz, one being Leo Santa Cruz, and Carl Frampton, as they are all super featherweights. So they will not be included in any of these lists today, for me anyway.
Although Jojo Diaz was part of your fight of the week, I think.
He
right?
was, and then he decided to move on up, and you know, it is what it is. That's what happens. But
and then no Frampton comes alive.
So,
all right, well, who's your number 5?
My number 5 right here. I don't know much about this guy, but I put in Zhu Can as my number 5 fighter. I didn't know much about him, but he beat Robles and he beat Rojas. I watched these fights. He's relatively unknown to me personally, but won them both by unanimous decision. An interesting fact is against Robles, he threw 1,562 punches. 1,185 of those were power punches in one fight. I'd also like to say that he that he also hit Robles so hard that he knocked him into the referee and knocked the referee down. So he did get credited with the referee knockdown in that fight, which was pretty funny. I had a good laugh at that. But he seems like he has the potential to possibly be something more in this division. He does need to do more head movement. He's a pretty up and down fighter where he doesn't do much on defense, but he's entertaining to watch. So Zucan, that is my number 5 fighter.
Well, Zucan sounds like a wrestling bout there with 1,100 punches and a referee knockdown and knockout. I mean, did he slip on the old barbed wire on the glove while the referee was down or anything like that? Did we?
His nickname is the Monster. So
Zoo the Monster Can. Well, that's I kind of like that. All right, Filthy Rich, who do you got as your number 5?
Yeah, just to echo the thoughts of not having Leo Santa Cruz and Carl Frampton, Jojo Diaz. This is kind of something we agreed upon because I know Leo holds a belt, one of the alphabet titles, but also holds a belt at super featherweight. So when we get to our super featherweights one of these weeks, he will be somewhere at the top. I can guarantee that. That being said, my number 5 guy is someone with a chip on his shoulder, and it's a guy by the name of Michael Conlon from Ireland.
Ooh.
I watched this guy in the Olympics when he got screwed over, and I have been keeping an eye on him, and he is trying to get big fights. They're just not coming his way, but I know he wants to be the number 1 guy in this division. I think he's like 28 years old, but he wants it, and I don't think anyone wants a piece of him. He's got everything. He's got everything in the toolbox. Why isn't he number 1, 2, 3? He doesn't have the resume, but he's not. I don't even know if he's a top 10 on any of these lists anywhere. But he should be there. I have him at number 5, and I have no shame putting him at number 5.
I like you going outside the box there a little bit, dropping some knowledge on a guy we may not know about, Michael Conlon.
Oh, I know him. I like it.
I know you know him, Judge JJ's, but I'm talking about the fact that nobody had him on their rankings. Like even the big sites don't have him on their rankings. ESPN didn't have him on their rankings. I don't think Boxing Rec had him on their rankings either. So Michael Conlon, all right, as your number 5. Filthy Rich, I'm sorry, you're number 4.
Look, I'm not even a master of the English language, so I'm not even going to try to pronounce this guy's first name.
Is it Zucan?
Not Zucan. I'll just call him the Tugboat Nyambayar. If you know who this guy is, props to you, because he puts on a show every single time he's in that ring. He has one defeat to a guy who's probably taking home the title tonight. I think we're going to agree on the number 1 guy this week. But he has everything you need. The only thing he doesn't have, actually, I think, is defense. Because I don't think he goes out there to protect himself. I think he goes out there and says, hit me as hard as you can, and I'm going to hit you as hard as I can, and we're going to do this for 12 rounds until somebody else gets knocked down. But I have Nyambayar at number 4.
All right. I always have to have the tough one. That one's going to be filled into the sheet here. Pretty. It's going to take up most of the box on that side, I'm sure. All right, the Tugboat after coming up, he's 11-1, coming off a loss against a unanimous decision against Gary Russell Jr. Back in February. Judge, what do you got at your number 4?
I like that one, Richie. I like that one.
Thing, right? You have the same thing.
I do not have the same thing. My number 4 is actually going to be Kid Galahad. I've watched him a couple of times. He doesn't have too many victories or big name victories. He did do a split decision loss to Josh Warrington. he has had all of his fights, all but one of his fights in the UK. I'm not a big fan of UK only fighters or just one spot fighters, like all Thailand fighters and things like that. I'm not a big fan of that, but he seemed to be pretty good against Warrington, and Warrington's no joke. So, and he does have the ability to shift stances just like Terrence Crawford,
Oh, there
back
he
from
is. There we
ortho and
go.
southpaw. However, definitely doesn't do it nearly as well as Crawford does, but I think he still deserves a spot in this top 5. So I put him at 4, Kid Galahad.
Whenever Judge Jimmy James can bring up Terrence Crawford, he's going to throw that in there, of course.
I hear you say Crawford one more time. Everyone drinks.
And it's Tecate.
Hey, and you watching this, whoever's watching this right now, yeah, you pick up a beer. You're drinking with us. If he says Crawford one more time, we're all drinking.
I'm going to get alcohol poisoning if I drink as much every time I hear about Terrence Crawford with Judge Jimmy James, I'll tell you. As I said, I hope that I really, really hope that Kell Brook fight happens so Kell Brook can knock him on his ass, and then we could all just sit there and go, not even have to say a word, just tastes good to be right.
let's keep it moving. Let's keep
all right. Judge, what do you got for your number 3? Judge?
Oh yeah, sorry. My number 3, I have Shakur Stevenson. Relatively young fighter, definitely an up and comer in this division. I think he's probably one of the next big things. He's a southpaw. He seems to have just unlimited potential. This kid is no joke. I think if he can polish up some of his skills, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with, and he's probably going to end up on top of this division for years and years if he doesn't move up. But Shakur Stevenson, if you haven't seen him fight, I recommend that. He is a show. He's a show.
All right. Filthy Rich, your number 3?
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I got Shakur Stevenson at number 3. I watched him in the 2016 Olympics, and you can tell he was obviously young. He was like 18 at the time. I don't know what his background is as far as when he first stepped in the ring, who his influences were, or anything like that. But watching him grow, let me tell you, a year ago, I wouldn't have even thought about putting him in a top 5 list. I don't even know if a top 10 list. But his last 3 or 4 fights, I've actually seen something in him. I don't know what it is. I'm not saying I never liked the guy. I wanted to see him succeed. He's a U.S. Olympian. He may have even won the gold medal, but he didn't look like a fighter. I don't know what it was. He seemed technically sound, but it just wasn't enough. And that featherweight division, you need some speed and you need some anger. You're fighting like dudes across the world who are like tough dudes, and you seem like this smiley faced kid. You don't know what you're getting into. Again, the last 3-4 fights, oh my goodness, I've seen something in him that puts him at number 3 very deservingly. And if you guys are with me, I'll take a drink, but he's been rolling with Terrence Crawford. So maybe that has something to do with it.
There it is. Filthy Rich dropped that we should take a shot when Filthy Rich drops.
I love it. I love it.
And Andre Ward is with him as well. Andre Ward is like his promoter or something, because he's with Top Rank. So Bob Arum's at the top of Voltron. He is the head. But Andre Ward does some business with him. And I remember Andre Ward was with Rock Nation. I don't think Shakur Stevenson's with Rock Nation, but Andre Ward definitely is his voice. But he does roll with Terrence Crawford. They hang out together. Crawford walks out to the ring with him. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. But Shakur Stevenson, he is for real. I was wrong about a year ago. He is for real.
A little bit about Shakur Stevenson as well, friend of the show, Bach. That's one of his favorite guys. He's always talked about he's going to be pound for pound king eventually. So He may be upset that you guys have him so low on the list, but who cares what he thinks? And he won a silver medal, by the way, in the Olympics. And if you follow him on Twitter, which thankfully we don't have to because he didn't win the belt, but apparently he just had a bunch of breakups because he's posting his heart on his sleeve here. Like he says, "My heart's so big, I always make sure I try to do what's right in most situations. I get close with some of the lamest people, shaking my head, and now single as fuck." So apparently he's going through some things. I hope you feel better, Shakur Stevenson.
Well, he was dating a boxer. He was dating his opponent's sister. So maybe something happened. But yeah,
Joette Gonzalez, right?
That's probably who it was. But yeah, there was some real heat from his opponent, but he claimed he really loved that girl. It doesn't matter to me. A fight's a fight. All this heart on your sleeve stuff. They all go through it. Just some put it out there and others don't. He's 22 years old. He shouldn't be on this list. He's probably too young. But from what I've seen, he fights and he's deserving to be here.
He also quotes, "I'm going to be the greatest, mark my words." And that's got a little bit of a Muhammad Ali vibe to him, because didn't Muhammad Ali get in trouble for messing with Joe Frazier's sister or something like that? I think I've heard that before, or called her out, or I can't remember exactly what it is. I'm going to have to look that up. I remember there was something very personal that happened between Ali and Frazier too. That was something similar to that. But dating your opponent's sister, that's next level. I like it. All right, Filthy Rich, you're number 2.
So at number 2, this is crunch time. I'm pretty sure. Let's just do it. I got Josh Warrington at number 2. He's on list as number 1, I think, because of the time he beat Carl Frampton for a title. I know he has Lee Selby's name on his resume, but I have Warrington at number 2. I think him and Shakur Stevenson get in the ring. I probably take Shakur Stevenson, but Warrington just has more names on. He has more bodies, and he's got everything. I guess he has everything, but not good enough to be number 1. But Josh Warrington is a deserving number 2.
Judge, who do you got? Your number 2.
For my number 2, I also have Josh Warrington. 30-0, 7 knockouts. Got a good resume, just like Richie said. Beat Kid Galahad, beat Carl Frampton, beat Lee Selby, Kiko Martinez. That Lee Selby fight should have almost been the fight of the week that I said to watch last week, because that was a good fight. That was a relentless, man. If you can watch that, right? If you want to go reminisce, go watch that. That was a real good fight. But Warrington, he's got skills, man. He fights on his toes. He's relentless. He's got educated pressure, so he's not too crazy. He just doesn't come forward like a bull. Good center of balance. His power is a little weird because he's only got 7 knockouts, but it seems like he's got some good power. It just doesn't translate well. So that's my biggest knock against him. And the fact that he only fights in England. So same thing with Kid Galahad, only has 1 fight outside of England. So he needs to take some bigger risks and go outside of his comfort zone, because I would like to see him tested outside of the UK, just like Joshua did. And see how he holds up.
He did that though.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. You can't always fight at home, man. You gotta expand your resume. You gotta expand the places you go. You can't always be the favorite. You gotta be the underdog and see how you prevail in that type of environment. And that's my only knock against him. I mean, he's a good fighter. He's only 29 years old, so I'd like to see him fight some of these other guys. I'd like to see, if he fought Stevenson, that'd be an interesting fight to watch for sure. But yeah, Josh Warrington, I think he is a well-deserving number 2.
All right, let's go to Judge. You're number 1. We might have a BAB champion this week. Is that something that you guys think is going to happen here? Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm probably I can't imagine that it couldn't be, even though we had you know, a couple of names at the bottom of this list. Either way, self-proclaimed fastest hands in
Hold on. Well, I was
boxing.
actually proud of you guys because you guys had 4 different names for your first 2, unlike normal you guys where you guys match up a lot, and then you guys started matching up on your last 2 completely. But
Hey man,
all right,
you
because
can't.
if our experts agree, then it must be true.
This
So,
is boxing.
Judge Jimmy James, who do you have as your number 1?
My number 1 self-proclaimed fastest hands in boxing is Gary Russell Jr.
And Filthy Rich, do we have a champion?
I mean, it's not Zucan, it's not Kid Galahad. I have Gary Russell Jr. as my number 1 guy.
Gary Russell Jr., you are our new BAB champion for the Featherweight Division. Congratulations. We will now follow you on Twitter, and you have just won the most prestigious title of your career. So, thank you very much, Gary Russell Jr. Please follow us back and come on the show and accept your award. I'm going to throw that out to every one of these fighters now. Hopefully they come on the show. But Gary Russell Jr., congratulations. You are our BAB champion of featherweights. All right, Judge Jimmy James, you get to start it off right away. Explain why Gary Russell Jr. is your number 1.
Well, like he's already stated, his self-proclaimed fastest hands. He does have some real quick hands and some good power. He is 31-1, 18 knockouts. His only loss, and deservingly so, is to Lomachenko.
Take a drink.
Is to Lomachenko. All right. I mean, everybody loses to him, and he still fought one hell of a fight for that. So that ain't even a blemish. He's 31-0 as far as I'm concerned. But he does have some good fights against Jojo Diaz, Anayambiar, Kiko Martinez. He's fast. He's got skills. He's got power. He's going to be at the top of this division until somebody can knock him off, and I don't see that. I really don't see that happening, at least now. Maybe in years to come. But there was one really interesting thing that I saw for Russell that goes back to Olympic trials back in like 2007, where he actually lost his first fight, then ended up beating the guy that beat him twice in the national championships to qualify. And he only became the 4th boxer in U.S. history to lose in the opening round and rebound to win his weight class. And the other fighters that did the same thing were Evander Holyfield, Roy Jones Jr., and Floyd Money Mayweather. So that's some pretty good company to be name dropping in there. Gary Russell Jr., hats off to you, man. I'm looking forward to your next fight. That's my number 1.
All right. And Filthy Rich, why is Gary Russell Jr. your number 1?
Well, because he has like 8 brothers named Gary Russell. I mean, he just happens to be the best out of the 8. There's Gary Antoine Russell, and there's Gary Anthony Russell, or he has a bunch of brothers. They're all named Gary Russell, but he's Gary Russell Jr. All joking aside, we already covered his only loss was to Lomachenko. And I think that was a loss that I think going into that fight, he kind of overlooked Lomachenko. I think he gotten spoiled where I can beat everyone, and really he can beat everyone. He gets back in the ring with Lomachenko. I don't think it's happening. Lomachenko's just too big right now for him. But Gary Russell Jr. has like everything. I know I've said that about the last few guys, but he's got speed on his side that the others don't have. He has the footwork. He has that, and when like the hand speed thing. Let's talk about that for a second. That Jojo Diaz fight. Jojo Diaz is no joke. He is a tough dude. And Jojo Diaz, is that his only loss? I think Jojo Diaz beats everybody. I think his only loss was to Gary Russell Jr. And that whole time he was like a half second behind everything. You can see Jojo Diaz winding up for a punch, and bang, already got hit by Russell Jr. He's number 1. There's really no question. This is very consensus. I don't know. Like Leo Santa Cruz is he's got a belt on like the WBC or something. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, put Gary Russell in the ring with anyone. I think he I think he beats him. I think he beats Shakur Stevenson and Kid Galahad and every name on this list.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you this: you guys sure make it tough on a guy to judge a fight. This is once again, you guys cover every angle, and it's very hard to make a decision one way or the other on a lot of them. I'm sitting here going over my scores again and again and again. You guys both make great points. I got it 48-47 for our new champion,
No
Filthy
way.
Rich. Filthy Rich pulls it out.
This is rigged. This is rigged.
Filthy Rich,
What are we in
congratulations
Vegas?
on winning your first Filthy Five. The game named after you for winning your first one. Congratulations. No Tecate for you.
Oh, thank you.
Great points by both of you. Again, that could have won a draw, but we don't do draws on this show. Very, very thought out, well researched points. Featherweight Division. That's our Filthy Five for this week, and check them out. Any final words from our champion? You get your free 30 seconds of anything you want to talk about for winning the Filthy Five. Filthy Rich, go ahead.
Let me tell you, I got 30 seconds. I probably don't need all this time. But none of this is possible without Raider Live and Judge Jimmy James. You two are stars of this show. I don't know how I won this one. Everybody check out Raider Live, the trivia show, the Parks and Rec this Friday. And check out every Saturday. He's got something going on this trivia show. Check this out. Last week was easy. I did really well. I'm very happy for myself because they're usually really tough. Judge Jimmy James does his homework. He knows everything. I don't know how I won this one. I probably hit my 30 seconds. I can hear the music playing like, hey, get off the stage. I'm done. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Well, thank you for using your 30 seconds to promote me. I appreciate that because I love being promoted. And yeah, you should watch our trivia shows. We are starting theme night trivia shows starting every other Friday, starting this Friday. You're probably watching this on Thursday, so tomorrow at 8 p.m. This week we're doing Parks and Rec trivia. I got a little different format for the Parks and Rec for theme night trivias, so you're going to want to tune in for that. They are very hard and very easy. So Judge Jimmy James is a big fan of Parks and Rec. I'm curious to see what his score is going to be on the questions that I wrote.
Treat yourself.
Treat yourself and show up to trivia. And then Saturday, of course, every Saturday we have trivia. If you haven't watched it live, you need to come in and join. We have a giant chat room that we all have some laughs in there. And I got a lot of regulars, and it's growing. I mean, it's really, really growing. We got a lot of new people in each week that say they're coming back. So, Filthy Rich, are you a big Parks and Rec guy?
I don't watch. I really don't watch any TV. You do if you do South Park and Impractical Jokers, I'll be there. But other than that, I don't know any of this. I don't know anything, man. I just know boxing and football. I can't wait to talk some football.
Well, one thing, South Park is on the list of theme nights. It will be coming up. We will not have an Impractical Jokers one, but we will have a South Park theme night. It is on the list. I don't know when it's going to come up, but it will definitely be a South Park one. So make sure you tune in for that one as well. All right. I feel like congratulations is in order once again, Filthy Rich, for winning the Filthy Five. Let's move on to the 13th round. All right, 13th rounds where we talk about something outside or in sports, but not necessarily boxing. Sometimes it is boxing, sometimes it isn't. But this week we had the NFL Draft. And it's safe to say that the three of us are Vikings fans here. We filmed this show in Minnesota. Judge Jimmy James is a Falcons fan as well. But the Falcons aren't as interesting to talk about as the Packers, who decided to trade up to get a quarterback in round one. And not just a quarterback, but like the fifth-rated quarterback on most people's boards, the experts' boards. That was a big shock for them to move up, to trade up. And then in the biggest wide receiver deep draft probably in the last 10 years, they didn't get a wide receiver. They spent their second-round pick on a running back, which they also have Aaron Jones. So it just seems like they're just trying to piss Aaron Rodgers off, and they did a pretty good job of it. So this week I want to talk a little bit about the Packers draft. We'll talk a little bit about the Vikings too, since they drafted, I think, 160 players in this draft. They traded back enough. I think they got like 160 players, which is a good thing since there's no training camp. You might as well just, let them play out Hunger Games style and see who can be in. Judge Jimmy James, let's start with you. How do you feel about the Packers trading up to get a quarterback? And how many times did you text our friend Travis about it?
So there's a picture, a photo going on where there was Packer fans in the background, and there's one guy that is super. His face says it all. It's just
the one behind Roger Goodell.
Exactly.
The one I texted you.
Exactly. That face says it all. I honestly can't believe it. I mean, Rogers is what, 36?
He's 36. He's got 4 years left on his deal.
And he's not. He's still going to play for at least 4 years. I mean, I get it. Getting a quarterback so they can, have him learn under a great quarterback. I get it, but trading up in the draft to get the 5th best draft prospect. I don't get it. I don't even know Jordan Love. I don't even know who this guy is. I personally didn't follow anything with him. I think it's pretty crazy because they still want to win now, and this division is no slouch. So I'm kind of shocked that.
Not only that, they're one game away from the Super Bowl last year, and you're going to draft a backup quarterback and then a backup running back, the two strengths of your team. You're going to do that instead of improving to get over that hump to go to the Super Bowl when you have a 36-year-old quarterback that still has 2 or 3 good years left in him.
Yeah, I personally, I don't get it. Maybe there's something I'm missing. I guess I haven't done crazy research on it, but
Filthy Rich, what did you feel about it?
Yeah, this was kind of odd to me because the Packers seem like that organization that when everyone's going left, they go right, and you may question it, but in the end, they got it right. This one, I'm not getting, and maybe we'll understand a year from now. But to draft a guy who I believe is, according to film, looks similar to Rodgers. Are they just trying to get a younger version of Rodgers to dump him off, or are they trying to build this guy up as like the next bargaining chip, like a Jimmy Garoppolo, where you can get rid of him for not pennies, but like the second coming, seeing what happens. I'm pretty stunned by this one. I don't know what the Packers were thinking. They obviously, just like you said, this is a deep receiver draft. Get the man his weapons, and he'll do wonders for you. I think LaFleur wants to part ways with Rodgers, but then they're signing a guy just like him. Doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, I think LaFleur, one thing, he wants to put his own stamp on the team. He doesn't want to have people say if he wins, it's because of McCarthy's old guys, that it was all those guys, and it's not his own guys. It's ego. It's basically is what it is. It's ego. And I watched it on draft night, and I don't know if I'm sure I've talked to you guys about Pat McAfee and his show, but Pat McAfee was having a live draft show during the show, and one of his guys does a Mel Kiper impersonation. It's so dead on. It's incredible. And this guy is a giant Packer fan, and to watch him freak out in Mel Kiper's voice was so hilarious. You got to watch it. Yeah, I mean, you got to watch it because it was so funny. He had me rolling on the floor laughing in tears. I was texting Ryan Hype at the time. He was watching it too. And this guy, he's unbelievable. I mean, he's got the Mel Kiper voice down perfect, and he was so angry about this. And as pretty much all my Packer friends that I've been talking to are totally angry about it. And that's weird because we all have Packer friends, and we know how they are. They'll make excuses about anything, that they'll throw the how many Super Bowls of the Vikings won, this and that. They were speechless on this one. They're like, we have no idea what the heck they're doing, why they're doing this. It feels like it's going to cause nothing but drama. And I don't know if you guys saw, Favre even came out and said it was just a slap in the face to Rodgers, and I would bet that he's not going to finish his career in Green Bay. That's what Favre said. Apparently Aaron Rodgers has only talked to 2 people since then. He hasn't apparently even talked to his coach. He talked to Jordan Love and Brett Favre. So that's interesting. And also on that Pat McAfee show, Aaron Rodgers was on the show like 45 minutes before that happened. And like doing an interview, he's like, yeah, it'd be great if they get a skill player because, we've never drafted one while I've been here. And I looked up, they never drafted a receiver since he's been there in the first round. That's incredible. They've never drafted a skill player in the first round during the Aaron Rodgers regime. That's incredible to me. That's an incredible stat. And he's like, yeah, I just hope that they draft a skill player. And they did. They drafted a quarterback, traded up for him. So, and then they were sitting there the whole time. All the people on the show were saying, call him back, text him back. He's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to put him under that stress. But the Packers don't know what they're thinking. I loved it because as a Vikings fan, it gives me something to laugh in their face. Because a little segue, I feel like the Vikings nailed that draft. I felt like in a year where you can't have a lot of training camp possibilities and things out, you're going to have to go with the numbers approach. And they set a record. No one's ever drafted 15 players in the modern age in a draft. Not even Bill Belichick has done that. So 15 players, and they got a lot of good ones. They drafted receivers, linemen, everything they needed, basically. They even drafted a quarterback late, but that seems a throwaway pick. But
disagree.
Any thoughts on the Vikings draft there, Filthy Rich?
I have no thoughts on the Vikings draft. I don't know what they did. These guys are just a bunch of rookies. We'll see what happens when the games are played. But Mike Zimmer is still one of the best coaches in this league. As long as he has something, give him the pieces he wants. I trust his. Was it Spielman drafting then? I'm sure Zimmer has some input saying, look, I need a linebacker or a safety or whatever he may need, whatever he needs. Let Spielman go out there and figure out the best guy to fit that need. I trust Mike Zimmer with this team. I think people keep calling for his head every year. I'm getting tired of it.
I like him.
I like Zimmer a lot. I don't know who you replace him with. You know who else I like? I like Marvin Lewis, too. I don't know if Marvin Lewis has a job yet, but he's another coach. If you're going to replace Zimmer, I think I thought they were together. I could be wrong on that one, but
yeah, Zimmer was
Cincinnati
assistant coach under Marvin Lewis for a long time.
Yeah, that's what I kind of thought. I think that would make an excellent tandem if the two of them had to get together for some odd reason. I know that's getting away from the Vikings draft, but I don't think the Vikings even need anything. They just need to go out there and win with the team they have. Having all these extra spare parts is great in case someone hurts themselves, but I think the Vikes are always a threat no matter what.
Well, they did need to replace that secondary of theirs. And speaking of Mike Zimmer, I don't know if you guys watched it live on the draft, but it looked like his house was straight out of Ace Ventura Part 2 with all the dead animals around. It looked like the lodge, where Ace Ventura walks in and has a seizure heart attack of all the – like he's sitting in like a safari room faced with like all these dead animals around him. It was like, what lodge is he coming from? And then apparently Spielman spent a month in the Mall of America hotel because he booked it for the draft, and then the NFL told him last minute, yeah, you can't have all your people there. So he just stayed there by himself, living on peanut butter and roast beef sliders. Sounds disgusting, but apparently that's what came out today. Judge Jimmy James, you have any closing thoughts on the Vikings draft?
I mean, drafting that many players, I really wish we would have been able to maybe move up instead of drafting a lot. Of course, it gives us a lot of, the more you draft, the better your odds are of somebody panning out. But we needed cornerbacks since we lost 3 in free agency or off season. I like those 2 picks. Jefferson makes me worry a little bit because I went back and looked at the draft analysis for Laquan Treadwell, and they were pretty close to the same, and I don't like that at all. Problems with separation from cornerbacks. Good route runner. Really great hands.
Slot
Not really that top end speed. I hope that Justin Jefferson pans out. I hope he is not a Laquan and Treadwell. But he did run he did have a faster 40 time than Treadwell did. I mean, obviously, he did well in LSU, but that pick makes me worry. I wish we would have got somewhat of a speedster, because I feel that Thielen is our possession route runner receiver that we need, and we need somebody that can stretch that field. So we'll see. We'll see if he pans
Sharp.
out. Oh yeah, the ghost of Tajay Sharp. Yeah,
the corpse that I call. But, I like Justin Jefferson. I thought I was a little surprised that they took him because he was a slot receiver at LSU, and that's pretty much where Thielen runs out of the slot. So I'll be interested to see how they use him. He says he can play on the outside too. Maybe he'll have 2 slots. Maybe there'll be a lot more 4 receiver sets with BC and BB. BB's not really an outside guy either, but maybe you throw Irv Smith out on the end.
I was gonna say I'd like to see Irv Smith Jr. get out there a little bit, because he is a big, fast guy.
Yeah,
he's definitely somebody who's a matchup problem. Don't give me that face. Don't give me that face, Richie. I can see that face.
This is the same Irv Smith that played for the Saints in the 90s?
No, that was his dad.
Yeah, Irv Smith.
This is Irv Smith Jr.
That's the son? Oh, I didn't. Oh, that's kind of cool. I didn't know that. I don't know. I have some old memorabilia of him.
Oh, yeah. He was our second-round pick last year. I like Irv Smith a lot.
Irv Smith Jr.,
Yeah.
You put him on a corner out there, and that's an instant mismatch in our favor. He's a big guy. He's quick, too. I mean, he's quick. The steal for the Vikings. The steal for the Vikings, I thought, was Ezra Cleveland, the offensive tackle out of Boise State. This kid is a moose. He was a first-round talent, and he dropped to them in the second round. He's 6'6", 311. He's just a moose out there.
You like T-Rex arms, man?
They say that, but he's a bruiser, man. He's a bruiser, and you take them T-Rex arms and knock you into next week. I'll tell you that. I mean,
I hope you're right, man, because that is –
and, worst comes to worst, you got yourself a guard there. You don't need long arms on a guard. He's still
fair enough.
He's a moose of a guy. You can move him inside. You can move him outside. If he's not fast, he's quick. He may not have the he's 311 pounds and he's quick. But if he doesn't have the arms to keep up with those guys, then move him inside and let him get out and be a pulling guard on running plays and let him just run people over. I thought Ezra Cleveland was the steal for the Vikings that they got in the second round, because I remember in the first round when they traded, I'm like, oh, they're trading to go back and take Cleveland, and they got him in the second round. I couldn't believe it. I was like, they took Gladney in front of him and Jefferson, obviously, but I like Ezra Cleveland. I think he's I watch a lot of Boise State games. I liked him. Not saying I'm grading offensive linemen in college when I'm watching college games, but I knew who he was as I was texting with Zach. You guys all know Zach about it, and he felt the same thing about him. He liked Cleveland a lot too.
Let me tell you, the Viking fans are just delusional. It's just that. It's like every guy they draft, that's a good guy. He's good. I see a bright future for this guy.
Not true.
They're just nothing rookies. Let's just let it play out for a little bit. Let's not get carried away that I really like this guy.
Not true. Who's that big white running back out of Stanford that we took to back up Adrian Peterson, and we took him in like the second round? Remember? And then he went to Jacksonville.
Oh man, I do. And
when they drafted him, I'm like, that was a stupid pick.
The name escapes me, but
what was his name?
We'll have to figure it out in post show.
Yeah, we'll figure it out, and maybe I'll put it in the comments.
Let's talk about
Either way, Nate Stanley. I think that guy right there. You give him 3 years. I might be eating those words, but that could be a.
Hey, we watched him play the Gophers a few times, and he lit up the Gophers back then. The only thing I was hoping the Vikings. Speaking of the Gophers, I was wishing the Vikings would have taken Antoine Winfield Jr.
Yeah,
I was really hoping. I was like in the second round.
He's gonna go play with Brady.
I know. Tampa Bay took 2.
Yeah, and can I for a minute just mention how Favre is not breaking any news when he says Aaron Rodgers won't be a Packer. Nobody stays with their teams forever. Oh my God, you're so smart, Brett Favre. No, you're not. No news breaking here. Everybody leaves. Nobody ever stays. I mean, you got a couple exceptions to the rule, but come on, that's not news that Favre says he won't stay there. Duh, I could have told you that. That's easy.
Well, in this day and age, you're right, but
Boxing show.
In in this day and age, you're right. Brady's going somewhere else. Obviously, Manning went somewhere else. Favre went somewhere else. Phillip Rivers went somewhere else.
AP, I got in arguments with people saying AP's going to be a Viking. No, he's not, dude. Hello.
Well, running backs are different from quarterbacks. So.
They're all the same thing. Nobody stays around forever.
That's probably true.
We can move on. But all I was going to say was look at Joe Staley, how he announced his retirement and told the team he's going to be retiring. So prepare for this. And sure enough, they got the guy from Washington. Maybe this is what's happening with Aaron Rodgers. Maybe he's already told them, I'm out of here. You guys need to prepare to go on without me. I know I have 4 years left. We'll work something out, blah, blah, blah. We don't know. It will come out eventually, but maybe we can assume that he wants out and he's already talked to somebody about leaving.
Well, I think he wants out now.
Fair enough. It's a boxing show, so I get it.
All right, we won't get into in-depth about Nate Stanley out of Iowa, the 7th-round pick for the Vikings. We won't get into that then.
But we can get into how I won the Filthy Five today. Hello.
That's right. All right, let's move on to the Filthy Fan question of the week. Filthy Rich, the Filthy Fan question of the week comes from Ryan in Eden Prairie. He asks, how do you prevent draws in championship fights? Would odd number rounds be the answer?
Thanks for the question, Ryan. Let's see. In theory, yes, it would be nice, but this is boxing. It's not going to happen. I would like to give you the short, quick answer, but I'm not going to do that because if we can talk Vikings that long and Packers that long, we can give you a long-winded answer here. Let's start with how judges are selected. So the judges are selected based on the two camps agreeing to 3 judges. Once these 3 judges are selected, it is almost, I would say, the responsibility of a selected camp to take care of these judges. I don't know if you can smell that, but it smells like corruption to me. When I believe it was Canelo, and I could be wrong, I thought it was the Canelo Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. fight. The Golden Boy camp was responsible for taking care of the judges. So the 3 judges were put up in hotel rooms and all this cutesy stuff, all on De La Hoya's dime. So right off the bat, if I am a judge in this fight and this fighter's camp is taking care of me and I'm getting the best room service and all this good stuff, probably going into that fight going, I want this guy to win because this is what it is. So let's move that aside. So we're not going to get away from the corruption. Draws are going to happen no matter how many rounds. An odd number round, even number, it's going to happen. They're going to make it happen. But what we really want, you the fan, you the casual viewer who can change the channel at any time, what you want is a winner in a championship fight. You want a winner in the Super Bowl. You don't want to draw. You don't want to draw in the World Series or the NBA Finals or the Stanley Cup or Wimbledon or anything like that. There should not be a draw when there's a title on the line. Here is my solution. Let the referee be the deciding vote. Why doesn't the referee get something? If Jack Reese is the third man in that fight, if it's Wilder and Fury, Jack Reese was in there, and that fight was a draw, let Jack Reese be the deciding vote. Let him go in blindly with like an envelope saying, I think this guy won, and in case there is a draw, we open this envelope, and that is who the winner is. Let the referee get the deciding vote. That is my solution. Do you guys have anything to say? I don't know.
That's an interesting solution. I've never thought of that, actually. That's
I like it.
I like it a lot, too. My idea was to almost have it like other sports where it's live scoring, where you can see the scoring live. Maybe that having that spotlight on the judges as it's going on.
Like a sudden death kind of thing, where after 12 rounds, we can look up, see the scorecards tied. We have to go to the 13th round. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying having live scoring like a scoreboard, and all these judges have to put up their score after each round, so they know what the score is moving forward. That way, usually if a spotlight's on somebody, they're less corrupt. Like let's go back to the Triple G versus Canelo fight, where Adelaide Bird had one of the rounds 10-9 for Canelo, that everybody in the world watching had Triple G dominating that round completely. Puts a spotlight on him, going, okay, what are you looking at? It's on the board here. We can see it on the board instead of having to look up the scores later to find their cards. And that way the boxers can also look up too and say, okay, well, I'm behind. These are the official scorecards. I'm behind. Almost have it like a live scoring, like all the other sports you're watching.
Well, there's not a huge problem with it, but for one, you can change the scorecard. So when there is a 10-8 round, later on in the rounds, like a 10-8 round in the 4th round, by the time the 8th round rolls around, you can erase that 10-8 round and change it to a 10-9.
Yeah, so and that's wrong. It shouldn't have to be.
Well, that it happens, and it is like that's the rule. You can do that. There's a 10-8, and that's the other thing. You don't need a knockdown for a 10-8 round. If someone thinks that you were just getting manhandled or woman-handled in a round, they can score it 10-8. So we can still find corruption. I wouldn't say corruption, but we can still find a way to make the judges get this draw going, if that makes sense.
Okay, Jim, what do you have in this this question here? You have any comments?
Not really, man. I wish I had an answer for that. You guys both make some good points. I'd love to try either of them. I mean, you're not going to know what works and what doesn't unless you try something out. Otherwise, you're just speculating. I mean, both of them are good. I wish it was different, but I don't have too much to add to that. I'd say let's try both and see what happens. Why not? Let's do it.
And I have no problem with draws. I kind of like it. But if you, Ryan, are the casual viewer and says, I don't want to watch this, and I have a bunch of guys behind me who say they don't want to watch some fight that ends up in a draw when there's a title on the line. Forget like some regular fight with no title on the line. When the title is on the line, there needs to be a clear-cut winner. How do we solve that problem? I thought about this a long time ago. My solution was the whole let the referee be the deciding vote. But then again, let's go back to Golden Boy. You're on Golden Boy's dime. They also select the referee. Now, if the referee's agreed upon. Now, if the referee, whether they get a flat fee or whatever it is, if you're the referee of that fight and Golden Boy is taking care of you while you're in Vegas and you're from, Mobile, Alabama. Shout out to all our fans in Mobile, Alabama. You're probably going to be favoring the guy that took care of you. So we'll never get past it. But my answer to the question, and I'd like to think it would be like a kind of answers or solves the problem, whatever it may be, have the referee be like a blind vote. And he was the third guy in there. Maybe they got to figure something out. There is no they in boxing. It is a board of commissioners and all this other good stuff. I mean, at least when you say they in the UFC, they is Dana White. There is no they in boxing. So you wish there was just a way where referees just get this one flat fee. That's it. One-way ticket out of town. But there's going to be money. There's always going to be money involved. Again, this is a long-winded answer, and I just need to stop. But yeah,
well, it also brings up the point that you're kind of bringing up is how do you appeal. What we're kind of looking at is how do you appeal to the casual fan? How do you bring them back? And how you got to do that, and is to have one unanimous body. The NFL deals with all football stuff. MLB deals with all MLB stuff. Boxing has 100 different commissions that do different things. You need to have one governing body that deals with everything. And one title for each weight
Well,
class.
that's not going to work either.
I know it's not going to work, but that's what you need to bring the casual fan back, because you try to explain boxing to somebody that doesn't watch boxing at a bar about how many titles and belts and weight classes and promoters and why these two guys can't fight each other, but these two guys can because they have different promoters. That, if you had a governing body, that might solve a lot of these issues. I have a governing body. These are the rules. The governing body takes care of everything. Like Dana White.
Think about
Dana White takes care of
soccer.
everything.
We have European soccer, and you have like Asian soccer, and you have all of South American soccer. You can't make some soccer player on one side of the country play the other team. The Japanese baseball and American baseball. It's all over the world. That's just the way it is. There's not to say there's nothing you can do about it, but at least boxing is closer to fighting each other than that. I mean, the World Series champions not going to go over to Japan and play them. Now we can see who's really the best in the world. I mean, these boxers are the best in the world. There's many titles. That's just the way it is, and that's the way it should be. I'm okay with it. There's no union, and at least football has a union. When they retire, they have like a 401k or whatever. Boxers don't have that stuff. That's why they're all broke, or most of them. I shouldn't even say most of them. I don't know their finances, but
well, maybe there should be. That's what I'm saying. Maybe there should be. Jimmy James, do you have any final thoughts on that? All right, good talk. All right, Ryan, thank you for your question. I hope we covered that for you. Also, if you have a question for Filthy Rich for our Filthy Fan Question of the Week, please post it on the Facebook page, Raider Live, or on Twitter, Brews&Boxing, or also on the YouTube page in the comments below. We will, and hopefully put it on a future episode. Again, thank you, Ryan, from Eden Prairie. I hope that answered your question. Let's move on now to the Jimmy James Fight of the Week. Judge Jimmy James, what is your fight of the week this week?
Well, we're going to be looking at super middleweights next week. I don't know if we touched on that yet.
We have not.
But, well, cat's out of the bag now. But my fight of the week for super middleweights is going to be David Benavidez versus Ronald Gavril, their first encounter. That is a fantastic fight. If you want to see two true super middleweights go at it, watch that fight. I was going back and forth because there are some good super middleweights that you could definitely watch, but a lot of these fights that I was bringing up and thinking about were all at catchweights, or they were done at other weight classes, even though they were having these, middleweight contenders. So it was tough to find one that was a true super middleweight fight, but Benavidez, Gavril won. That is something you should watch.
Filthy Rich, I know you love that fight as well. You were talking in the pregame about that fight.
Yeah. So, like, I mentioned something about watching those guys. I felt pain. I felt like I was getting hit to the body and my face was hurt, and I need a 1 minute just break from this. Definitely check that out. And I don't know if I can throw something else out there, but there was a fight, Andre Durrell and Jose Uzcategui. There's something major that happened in that fight. If you really want to, check that out sometime, but not to overshadow this Gavril and why is the name? I keep thinking of
Benavidez.
David Benavidez. Young David. He was like 20 years old at this time.
Mm-hmm.
Watch this. This dude is fast and hits hard. Got suspended for cocaine use and all kinds of good stuff.
Maybe that's why he was so fast.
That is true.
I know what I'm talking about. Watch that fight. That is a fun fight to watch. I might have to watch that this weekend, actually.
Well, we
Thanks
always
for the reminder.
Fights. I mean, I always watch Jimmy James Fight of the Week every week. The Jojo Diaz fight that you had for this week, that was another great fight to watch. That was a very enjoyable fight. Judge Jimmy James always knows the best fights to watch. That's why Fight of the Week is always so important. And as he touched on, we are hitting super middleweights next week for our Filthy Five. Will Filthy Rich be able to defend his title, or will Judge Jimmy James take it back? You're going to have to tune in to find out.
Hey, I'll say this too. I don't think we're going to agree on. There's going to be many we don't agree on in next week. I think we're going to have 2 different guys at number 1, maybe 2 or 3 different guys at 2, 3, 4, whatever, man.
So we've had like 3 weeks in a row with a BAB champion. We may not have one next week. So I mean, it's going to be an interesting thing to tune into. So that's next week, super middleweights. So check out the fight of the week. Check out the super middleweights, gentlemen. It's a pleasure meeting you guys every week. I have a great time seeing you guys every week. I'm out of beer, so we need to wrap this up here. But as always, I enjoy having the show with you guys every week. It's a lot of fun. If you are new to the channel and are just checking out shows, we have all sorts of new shows on this channel. We have trivia every week. We have the theme night again on Friday, which will be Parks and Rec trivia. And then we have live trivia every Saturday night, 8 p.m. Central. And then every other Friday for theme night at 8 p.m. Central, as we are in Minnesota here. And we have, check out the old episodes. Judge Jimmy James joined us last episode for his first episode of Brews&Boxing. But we did have another show called Unanimous Decision on the channel that you should check out. It was a lot of fun. We had to combine the 2 shows because they were so good. So, gentlemen, do you have any final thoughts? Filthy Rich, any final thoughts?
Raider Live is the best. Raider Live 2020. Watch his shows. Thanks for doing this. You are the voice of America. You are the voice of the world. Thank you, Raider Live. Judge Jimmy James, you're cool too.
Judge Jimmy James would be hard to top that, but go ahead and lock me up as well as he did.
Man, I can't top that. But go Friday and Saturday nights. Go watch trivia. Trivia is a good time. I definitely enjoy this show with you guys. Thanks for letting me be a part of it. Richie, you're gonna go down next week. Don't think I'm not gonna get my revenge.
No, you're not, because I just said Raider Live's the best. How are you gonna beat me next week?
Getting into that question, he put this judge up in the finest hotel this week. I had room service. It was great. Filthy Rich, I appreciate that. I'm sorry for the giant pay-per-view bill that you have coming your way. But good. I thank you.
It's worth it, Raider Live.
It was worth it. All right. For Filthy Rich and Judge Jimmy James, I am Raider Live. Thank you for joining us for Brews&Boxing episode 6, and we will see you next week.